Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Lori Johnson.
And I'm Ephraim Graham. The new year is bringing wild winter weather to some unexpected parts of the country, and brace yourselves. Forecasters now say the storm that brought snow to Southern California and the Southwest is heading for the East Coast, causing travel problems from Chicago to Boston through this weekend. New year and new winter weather headaches. Sand and salt trucks are already out in at least 8 states, trying to get ahead of the winter mess.
When I hit my brakes, it kind of just went sideways and I hit the rail over there.
Weather is likely to blame for a number of New Year's Day crashes that police responded to, from Texas to Nevada. And they predict icy conditions may have been what sent this pickup up onto a light pole. And where it is not icy, it is bone-chilling cold, with freeze warnings in Arizona and Nevada. Not far from Vegas, people witnessed whipping winds and snow.
The roads are pretty bad. It's getting worse, as we know. I'm pretty new to Vegas. I was definitely not expecting weather like this. I haven't seen snow in a long time, but this is pretty insane.
And it was a rare winter sight in Southern California, with people waiting overnight for the Rose Parade, lighting campfires and bundling up.
We have 3 layers on them, stockings, leggings, 2 pairs of socks.
And the wicked winter weather turned deadly for at least 5 people in California. Forecasters warn the storm will strengthen and take a track toward the lower Great Lakes this weekend. It will also spread a swath of snow, ice, and rain, bringing travel problems from Chicago to Boston. And areas that receive a heavy amount of ice or wet snow should brace themselves for lengthy power outages. Snow also caused chaos in Colorado, where some hikers found themselves caught in an avalanche. 3 were trapped just west of Denver. Only 2 of them survived.
Police officers across the country are starting the new year on high alert. Police are being targeted and threatened across the country after the deaths of unarmed black men in New York and Ferguson, Missouri. The FBI has issued a new warning as copycats of the NYPD officer assassination are issuing more threats. The NYPD has received up to 80 threats over the last week, leading to at least 15 arrests so far. In Houston, random shots were fired at an officer at a traffic stop, and from Los Angeles to Tampa to Philadelphia, police have also found themselves under attack. An annual report found that police shooting deaths were up 56% last year, and of the 50 officers killed last year, 15 of them were killed in ambush assaults.
Former New York Governor Mario Cuomo is dead at the age of 82. He passed just hours after his son Andrew was sworn in Thursday for a second term as the New York governor. The elder Cuomo had been in the hospital since November with congestive heart disease. He served 3 terms as governor from 1983 to 1994. He was a staunch liberal and is remembered for his scathing criticism of then President Ronald Reagan. Cuomo came close to running for president in 1992 and was a contender for the U.S. Supreme Court during the Clinton presidency.
In Indonesia, more bodies have been recovered from the AirAsia plane crash site. This brings the total number of bodies found to at least 30. Recovery efforts are still underway. Indonesian search and rescue teams say the focus of the search will be underwater detection to locate those black boxes. AirAsia Flight 8501 went down Sunday in the Java Sea, killing 162 people. Right now, authorities are still working on figuring out what caused the crash.
The U.S.-led coalition is ramping up its offensive against the Islamic State in Syria. An activist group says the coalition carried out more than a dozen airstrikes in and around northeastern Syria in recent days. That's where the Islamic State's de facto capital is located. The air raids hit areas on the outskirts of the city of Raqqa along the Euphrates River. This marks the heaviest round of coalition strikes on the city since ISIS captured a Jordanian pilot after his F-16 jet went down near Raqqa on Christmas Eve. No word right now on casualties.
2015 is just 2 days old, and already we're seeing a renewed diplomatic push by the Palestinians against Israel. Earlier this week, Palestinian leaders tried to push through a resolution in the UN Security Council calling on Israel to withdraw to its pre-1967 borders. That move was defeated, but now the Palestinians are seeking recognition from the International Criminal Court so they can file war crimes charges against the Jewish state. Well, CBN senior editor John Waggy spent several years in our Jerusalem bureau and just returned from Israel. Right. So what's this about the criminal court? What are the charges?
Well, this is something that the Palestinians have threatened now for months, if not years, and it's bringing war crimes charges against Israeli political and military leaders for the incursion into Gaza, things like that, where Palestinian war crimes under Hamas are not prosecuted by the UN, but the UN Human Rights Commission is currently investigating Israel for war crimes. And so the Palestinians are trying to push that forward and put the pressure on Israel within the court system if they can't win in the UN Security Council.
And how do you think that's going to work out?
Well, I don't think the criminal court is going to be as much of a threat to Israel as the continued fight at the UN. You know, the Palestinians are basically waging a two-front war. Part of the front is diplomatic, part of it is military. But it's the diplomatic war that they really have had their success recently, and they only came one vote short in the Security Council to vote to Israel to withdraw to 1967 lines. So they're going to try that again this year, most likely. The UN Security Council is rotating its membership, and it may not be as friendly to Israel as it was this time, which wasn't very friendly.
Like who might not be as friendly with the new Security Council changes?
For instance, Australia voted no with the United States to reject this resolution that would have been put pressure on Israel. Well, they're going to be replaced by New Zealand, and New Zealand may abstain or vote yes. And so the Palestinians are going to make another run at this. There's no doubt about it. They'll wait until later, but after Israeli elections.
Oh, well, speaking of the elections, Benjamin Netanyahu has a tough challenge facing him. What do you think is going on internally in Israel?
Well, he called elections because they passed a law within the Knesset that said Israel is a Jewish state. Netanyahu feels this is very important, that Israel declare itself a Jewish state and that the Palestinians recognize Israel as a Jewish state. There are people within his government who didn't want to see that, more left-leaning members, and Netanyahu tried to negotiate with them, and finally he just said, I can't deal with this carping all the time. We're going to elections and let the people decide on it. So March 17th is the date, and Israel's got to face elections. People aren't real happy about it, but it is a big issue that they're dealing with here. And so it's essentially a referendum to the people on whether Israel can declare itself a Jewish state and whether they're happy with Netanyahu's security measures and the way he's governed as prime minister. He's now the second longest running prime minister in Israeli history.
Now, relations between the United States and Israel have been rocky, and we now hear that President Obama wants to normalize relations with Iran, much the same way he wants to with Cuba. How is that going to affect our relationship with Israel?
Well, Israel has said repeatedly that they will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons, and you have to take them at their word that they mean it. So if the United States tries to bring Israel back in the so-called community of nations by easing up on sanctions or whatever, it means that Israel essentially is going to have to probably go it alone if they want to prevent militarily Israel or Iran from getting nuclear weapons. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, indeed. All right, John, thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Lori.
Today, undocumented immigrants living in California can apply for a driver's license. That state's DMV is taking applications for the new license program aimed at boosting road safety and making immigrants' lives easier. Officials expect around 1.4 million applications. California is one of 10 states that license immigrants in the country illegally to drive.
A security flaw in cell phones could let anyone eavesdrop on your calls and text messages. A German security research lab discovered the flaws in a system used by cell phone carriers around the world. It reportedly opens the door to wide-ranging surveillance by any skilled person who could easily listen in on phone calls or see the text messages and data traffic of billions of people. It also noted that users can protect themselves independently by using applications that encrypt their calls, messages, and emails.
Robots are increasingly being used in both the home and the workforce to help humans. Their resume, they make few mistakes, never get tired, and have recently become much more interactive. Our Caitlin Burke has this story.
An Alabama plant nursery is getting attention for its new army of engineered workers.
We've had a lot of people say from the highway they could see little aliens running around on flowerwood.
They're actually robots, carrying plants up and down the rows of the nursery.
As it goes across the front of the pots, he's seeing each one of them. Once he comes to an empty hole, that's where he drops the plant.
The robots haven't replaced human workers at the nursery. Ollinger says instead they're able to do the mindless work, spacing plants in the summer and bunching them in the winter.
We've taught them more and more skills, and we've moved them to where they're needed.
And that frees up humans to work on better jobs. The robots are still worth the $30,000 spent on them. They work in less than desirable conditions, can do double shifts, and don't require any breaks.
You can ride out of here at lunchtime, everybody's gone, and the robots are still running.
Robot technology is being used in the classroom as well. This robot carries an iPad, allowing a master teacher to interact with students remotely. 10-year-old Simon is working on his reading and comprehension skills this summer. The robot allows teacher Jody Giles to monitor his progress.
He'll tell us, help me out, and he will guide me and interact with me, and it's no different than when working with him in person.
Giles says that thanks to the new technology, she's able to interact with 10 to 12 students per day for about 20 to 30 minutes each, no matter where they're located.
We're reducing cost in travel and in time. So it's been a beneficial investment, not just in terms of financially, but also in terms of the time.
Despite all the benefits, there are still a few things that need to be worked out.
I like to help it because sometimes it mostly crashes on the wall.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Coming up, a school called Hope. How Christian missionaries are helping these migrant children get a chance at a better life. Well, parents worldwide want their children to have a good education and a bright future, but in some nations, it's hard just to stay alive.
Indeed, that is often the case for Burmese immigrants living in Thailand. But as Lucille Toulousan reports, a school run by Christian missionaries there is changing the lives of thousands of children.
For more than 10 years, the LP school has provided free education to Burmese child refugees. As an expression of his gratitude, former student Tunai O is now teaching in this school.
LP's taught me many things, and now I want to share what I learned with my own people.
LP's takes its name from the Greek word for hope. The ministry works to live up to its name with these children who escaped Burma's violence and extreme poverty. The Mui River runs between Burma and Thailand.
Most of the undocumented migrants use this back door to get to Thailand. The Burmese parents bring their children to this northern part of Thailand, which is Mae Sot, believing that here their children can have a better life.
LP's co-founder Maria Amihan is overwhelmed at how God guided them through the years of helping illegal child migrants. They have faced eviction and threats to their lives.
The Lord gave me a verse. Restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded, says the Lord. And then your children will go back to their own land. And that is a promise that I'm holding until now.
Trained by CBN's Asian Center for Missions, the ministry has grown to more than 300 students. In addition to lessons, students get lunch, which for most of them is their only complete meal for the day. LPIS provides shelter for the high school students. That helps protect these girls from prostitution or child labor. Piu Pue almost missed out on this new life because her mother wanted her to work in Bangkok. She changed her mind after realizing Piu Pue was the first member of their clan to ever graduate from elementary school. Now, Piu Pue is the first LPIS graduate admitted to a prestigious Thai school.
I want to be an interpreter And my hope is I want to share about God. I want to help the other children also.
ELPIS teachers also share Christ's salvation and teach the children to read the Bible. Maria is happy to see them apply what they learned to their lives. She fondly recalls how one of the girls gave up the doll she won in their Christmas raffle so that Maria can have her own.
She told me, "Teacher, I'm giving this to you." And said, "How can you give this to me? I know your doll, that you have the big one." And she said, "Yeah, teacher, but you know what? I exchanged that for this Barbie doll because I want you to have this."
And when asked why she did it,
"Teacher Maria loves us, and that is why I want to give her the Barbie doll. She never had one. I also learned that when we give much, we will also receive much."
Just one example of how love sown by the ELPIS missionaries is changing the lives of these children. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Mae Sot, Thailand.
Up next, you've heard the phrase, drop it like a bad habit, but that's easier said than done. We'll show you why some habits stick and others don't, so stay tuned.
It is a new year, time for those New Year's resolutions and breaking bad habits that have been plaguing you.
A Duke University study shows nearly half of everything we do each day isn't a conscious decision, just something we do by habit. Well, now there's a new technique that can help us take control of our behavior.
Most of us know from experience bad habits such as smoking and eating junk food are hard to break. And good habits, like that New Year's resolution to exercise every day, are hard to keep. But you're more likely to succeed with a new strategy. Scientists recently uncovered an enormous amount about how habits work in our brains.
Everything we know about the science of habits indicates that any habit can be changed.
In his book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg points out each habit contains 3 parts. First, a cue, which automatically triggers us to start. Then comes the routine, which is the behavior itself, followed by the reward, which is what we crave and is the key to our brain remembering that routine in the future.
And everyone from Aristotle to Oprah talks about changing habits, and for years they focused on the routine, on the behavior. But what we've learned is that it's really the cues and the rewards that shape how habits function. And that's how you can change habits, by diagnosing and paying attention to these cues and rewards.
Charles used himself as an example. In his job at the New York Times, he wanted to break his bad habit of eating a cookie in the company cafeteria every afternoon. So that's the routine. First, he identified the cue, which is always one of 5 things: time of day, a certain place, presence of other people, a particular emotion, or something you just did.
And so every day when I had a cookie urge, I would write down those 5 things. Where am I sitting? What am I doing? And I realized pretty soon that the cue was a certain time of day. It always hit between 3:15 and 3:45.
Then he experimented to diagnose the reward. Did it satisfy hunger? No, because after eating a filling apple, he still craved a cookie. Was it getting a break from work? No, because after walking outside, he still craved a cookie. How about interacting with other people? Bingo, because when he socialized, even without food, he felt content.
The cookie had essentially become an excuse for talking to other people. So once I recognized that, once I knew that the cue was a certain time of day and the reward was the social experience, I could reshape the behavior, the routine. So now every day I stand up at about 3:30 and I look for someone to go have a conversation with, and I walk over to their desk and then I go back to my desk. And the cookie urge is totally gone. I've changed that habit.
Let's say you want to break your habit of smoking a cigarette every night, and you figured out your cue is finishing dinner, and your reward is feeling relaxed. Now you need to find a better routine that delivers the same reward, such as taking a bath. But what if instead of changing a habit, you'd like to start a brand new one, like daily exercise? In this case, you have to come up with your own cues and rewards, but make sure the reward is something you genuinely enjoy, like listening to your favorite music.
If you go for a run every morning and you tell yourself, I'm going to reward myself by eating kale chips, that is not going to work because nobody actually likes kale chips, right? On the other hand, there was a study that was done in Germany where they told people, go running in the morning, start an exercise routine, and when you get back to your house, eat a small piece of chocolate. Now, this is counterintuitive, right? Because nobody exercises to eat more chocolate. And yet it worked. Because chocolate is a reward that people actually enjoy.
So by understanding our habits are simply cues, followed by a routine, then a reward, we can control our behavior. And as a bonus, the longer we stick with a habit, the easier it becomes.
So I am expecting a lot of people to be at the gym starting today. January is the big month. Everybody goes back to the gym and starts that new habit.
They crowd us regulars out.
Right. But it'll be back to normal probably by Valentine's Day.
I agree. See you in February. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Finally today, more than 20,000 college students are starting their new year with focus on intense worship and praise.
The Passion Conference gets underway in Atlanta this weekend and is known exactly for its name in focusing this generation of believers on living for Christ.
Passion is more than an event. Passion is you and me saying goodbye to the lesser things and saying yes to Jesus. Passion is a movement. The Jesus movement.
It's hosted by Reverend Louis Giglio, and worship leaders include Chris Tomlin, Matt Redman, David Crowder, and Christy Knuckles. Students are bringing items to the conference to help Atlanta's homeless. There's another conference next weekend in Atlanta, followed by another in Houston. To learn more, visit our website, cbnnews.com. And I've been to that conference, and it is indeed a wonderful experience. Those kids are on fire.
Oh, that gives me hope for the future.
Indeed. That's going to do it for us here on CBN News Today.
We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day, everyone, and Happy New Year.